Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
And welcome in to Life Planning 101 right here on KATX 97.7. Terry Slavens with you. And we have Angela Kennedy Robinson and Aaron Kennedy with us this morning. And let's see, since we last were together, some crazy things have happened.
Major.
Donald Trump is now President-elect Donald Trump.
That is right. And how could that move markets? And that's why we brought our chief analyst in today to really talk to us about some different aspects that he has as proposals and what it could mean for your investments. Now, I have a great article, and I didn't write it. It was written by Mr. Matt Miller. He is the Policy and Communications Advisor at Capital Group. And this guy has actually served as a senior advisor in the White House offices of management and budget. And he was a White House fellow serving a special assistant to the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. He's written several books, and he put together a wonderful article. It's called 5 Ways President-elect Donald Trump Could Move Markets. And so that is what you would see on our website this week, katxradio.com, kwbyradio.com, and kennedy-financial.com. It is wonderful. There's charts, graphs. I encourage you to go on here, look at this. But we're going to drill down on these 5 ways that things could be affected. And there's actually a few more than 5. First time I showed Aaron, he says, well, that's a lot more than 5. So we got quite a bit
Counting's a little off.
Yeah, counting's a little off. Even though he has all these titles, his counting was a little bit off. But we do want to get through them today because there is some really, I think, even though, from a market's perspective, apparently it likes President-elect, right? We have had some serious bull markets over the last week, and the dollar is going nuts. It's actually absolutely rallying. So a strong dollar, markets are doing well. There's still a lot of paranoia out there. What is this guy going to do? He is not your typical politician. He's got some pretty crazy or outlandish policies that he wants to get implemented in Washington. And if he does that, how is that going to affect everything? So I think it's important for us to go through this and kind of look at it. But before we do that, I want to mention something. In this article by Mr. Miller, he actually put a growth of a hypothetical $10,000 investment made at the beginning of each election year, looking back in history since 1936. And since that time, there has been only one piece of history in which your investment of $10,000 wouldn't have made money during anybody's time in office. Think about that.
That's
Republican,
amazing.
Democrat, whatever. And I'm talking the mean value, whether you're Democrat or Republican, ranges from $29,000 to $32,000. So that's 290 to 320% growth in the market over someone's time in office.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that impressive?
That's crazy.
That is crazy. So the only time that didn't happen, and I bet you can guess it, 2000 to 2009. And still at that time, it only lost 10%.
And that was during the time of the big bust.
That's right.
That's exactly
That's
right.
right. So, with all this being said that we go through today, I think it's important for us to remember the big picture, the future. All this stuff is minute, and really, like we've mentioned on the show before, what happens today with policy may not affect these markets for years and years, decades to come. So it's really important for you to keep your eye on the ball of your own goals as we go through these.
That's exactly right.
Yep. So let's get into the first one. All right, so we're going to build a wall. We all know that.
Part of it might be a fence.
Yes. There's a big thing about building a wall, but there's a big thing about infrastructure. Actually, Donald Trump's plan with infrastructure is $500 billion. Okay, that is a lot of money going to work, all right? And what he wants to do is, and he's a real estate guy. He likes to see things shiny and pretty, so he wants to pretty back up America. He wants to get our highways highways, our bridges, our airports, everything back up to speed in the 21st century. And in addition to that wall that he, by the way, quotes that Mexico will pay for, right? So, Aaron, what do you see as how that's possibly going to move markets if all that goes into place?
Okay, what a big question.
We're starting off easy.
Yeah, starting off easy. Okay, let's go with the infrastructure. The biggest thing with infrastructure is putting people back to work. You know, we're not looking at corporate high-rises that are going downstairs and going to work building roads and bridges and everything else. This is putting mass shovels into the ground going to work. More people working, more spending. Consumers are still 70% of the entire economic output. So this would be great for our country. The other thing is the raw materials that we would be buying to put all this into place is very big for inflation. The biggest part of inflation is replacement costs. And all of a sudden, if these raw inputs start going up in price, there's inflation. And inflation's good, not hyperinflation. We sure don't want to be 7 to 13% like we saw in the 80s. But you know, a good, healthy 2.5%, 3.5%, that is good. That is good for our country. That is good for our economy.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want? I mean, eventually that's going to trickle down to our wages. So who would not want a 2.5 to 3.5% raise a year?
Woohoo! Nothing wrong with that.
Buy more radio.
That's
And
right.
The government keeps telling us that inflation's here, inflation's there, but look at what Social Security's been increasing.
Mm-hmm.
The only people that have been getting inflation raises are the people in Washington. The rest of us are struggling.
Yeah, and we're ecstatic because this COLA is really nothing that even, because they've taken food and oil prices and everything out of
Right.
the cost of living adjustment. So
Right. The
we're
only
not
thing they're
getting that.
measuring is the golden toilets. The things I use, like food and energy, are going straight up. But
Right.
everything else, no.
Right. So I think that's great. I read Mr. Miller. He actually said that if Trump implements this over a 5-year period of time, it's actually going to create 0.5%. So that's 0.5% of growth in our gross domestic product a year. That's huge.
That's 50%.
Yeah, that's big. That's big. That's really big. So, this is a positive thing with the wall being built or any other construction that he wants to put into place. And, he had said he wants to have Mexico pay for it. And he says he's going to have them give loan guarantees, or this is just in theory. There could be Mexico giving loan guarantees to borrow at very low interest rates to assist in the construction. So it's Keynesian style, is what they're potentially looking at.
But what if it was something different? In my mind, it's not plausible to build a wall. But what if that's a metaphor for protect our workers? What if that's what he's trying to say? I'm going to protect my workers and quit giving away our workforce. And that's not being racist. That's protecting America.
Right.
People
Protect
haven't
our
had-
taxpayers,
Right.
our taxpayers, people that want to pay for
Middle
to keep our
wage
country.
people have
yeah.
not had a raise since the 70s.
Wow.
And that's true. And why is that? It's not because companies haven't increased in value. It's because our workforce has grown astronomically. Supply and demand. The bigger the supply gets, the less you have to pay for it.
Exactly.
And that's just simple economics. And I think that's the wall we're trying to build.
And the other thing, and I'll be brief on this, but we have people that are having to leave here to go protect our borders, because of not having a way to stop them from coming in. But our highway patrolman from here, I had a highway patrolman that missed his son's playoff football game Friday night because he was in South Texas.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about health care. And you don't want to miss what the analyst, Aaron Kennedy, has to say on all of this.
All kinds of good stuff coming up here on Life Planning 101. We'll be back right after this. Life Planning 101 continues here on KATX, KWBY. Terry Slavin's with you on this beautiful Monday morning, and we're talking about Donald Trump's election and what it could mean in the markets with our experts, Aaron Kennedy and Angela Kennedy Robinson. Good morning.
Good morning again, and
morning.
so happy to be here on the show this morning. A great show lined up. I think everybody's got these questions. What is this going to mean? What's the future going to bring? What is this going to do for my retirement? I don't think anybody has the answers right now,
But we can speculate.
Yeah, we've got a lot of speculation, and there's some good idea. I mean, we have a Republican-controlled Senate and Congress with majority vote. That's huge. That is massive. So what that means for the Republicans is if Donald Trump can work with them, which he is apparently trying to do. Now he's got the chief of staff that was head of the Republican National Convention. So, he's one of those foundational Republicans. And I think that's where he's going to try to be bringing that together. And then, you look at the Democratic side. This is what's interesting to me. Charles Schumer, he's a New York senator. And earlier this year, he's a Democratic, and he's headed towards the minority leader. That's what they're suspecting he will get to. And here's what he said about Donald Trump. Trump is a relatively moderate Republican who can help break gridlock in Congress. He said this to Business Insider this last spring. So I think that's huge in the respect that if people are willing to work together, they may be able to get a lot done. Okay, and here's one of the biggest things that needs to be done. We've got a lot of taxes that need to be paid. Well, when I say that, we have $2 trillion that belongs to the United States because of our companies, so to speak. But it's overseas. It's kind of held captive overseas. And these companies are not going to be bringing that back into the United States under current tax laws. Right now, we are the highest in the world of corporate tax rates. We have a 35% corporate tax rate, where other countries enjoy a 15% corporate tax rate.
Right.
Then in addition to that, you take on to that we have things that we need to be spending money on, and the question is, how do you pay them? Okay, so Donald Trump, for instance, he wants to increase defense spending. That was opposite, reversal of what Obama did. He actually took it down, but he wants to increase it. So you have this kind of conflicting information. Okay, we need to charge less in taxes. That's what Donald Trump wants to do, but increase spending. So how is that going to work overall? Well, Aaron, I think you said it best this morning, right? When you said, well, here's how he's going to pay for the wall.
Trump is trying to bring back that excess cash into the U.S. and tax it at a very favorable rate.
10%.
10%, which at
$2 trillion. That's $200 billion.
That's huge. So let's do it. We can't. if we wanted to spend here in the U.S., we sure can't. We can't spend here in the U.S. if all the cash is overseas.
Right.
And it would be a wonderful thing.
So if he successfully gets corporate tax rates down from 35% to 15%, as his proposal wants to do, and of course decreases taxes for all of us, as he says he wants to do, what is that going to do for the markets?
Number one, that's a lot of cash that's in the markets that can be spent in a productive way. And companies can spend cash just like the governments, and it not be productive and not do anything for our GDP or any kind of productivity. But if we can leave it in the corporation's hands, let them spend it, and then let that trickle down to the consumer that is going to spend it, that is going to be huge for our economy. So right now, the biggest problem is corporations are not spending, and whether that be for their increased employment cost or regulation cost or taxes cost, they're just not spending. Somebody has got to step up, something's got to change, and this cash needs to be released and put back through our economy. And simply buying back shares, which is how most corporations have been spending their cash now, that's not working.
It doesn't drive anything. It kind of artificially inflates things.
It's just absolutely artificially
inflates
inflating
the stock. Yeah,
that's it.
So, okay, you mentioned an important thing there. We got taxes, and then we also have regulation. And, one of the things in his campaign Trump kept talking about was rolling back Dodd-Frank. Okay, well, this was put into place after our Great Recession with the bank failure. And it's very controversial in Washington, has been ever since, because one side of the fence says we need more regulation to protect our consumers, and the other side of the fence is saying, well, if banks can't lend, then consumers cannot get out there and grow businesses and make things happen. And so if he rolls that back, if he successfully does that, do you think he'll roll it back, or do you think he'll just reform it to a place that it might be beneficial?
Hopefully it's a reform. Any kind of regulation that we need needs to stop fraud, and outright crime. That's it.
Really?
That's it.
Simple.
That's simple. I don't think the government understands that concept.
Excess regulation just for the fact of growing our government is a poor way to grow. Period.
Yeah, I actually went to a recent town hall meeting, and they were saying, we have a fourth branch of government today, and that's all of these pieces of regulation on every industry that's out there.
It's crippling.
Yeah,
it's crippling.
It's the financial aspect of it.
Yes.
It's crippling. So that's huge. And, to add to all this, I think there is one positive note before we take our next break, and we're going to come back, and we're definitely going to talk on trade and healthcare. But I don't know if many of you heard this because it's positive news. Mr. Trump has elected not to take his $400,000 a year salary, which that should help pay for a couple things too. Not much, but just a couple things, right?
I think he said yesterday he's required by law to at least take $1, and so he would do that. But, anyway, we'll be back with more great information right here on Life Planning 101, KATX KWBY. And we're back here on Life Planning 101, KATX KWBY, final segment, and take it away.
All right. Thank you. And we've got a great show. We're actually talking about Mr. Donald Trump, President-elect's proposals. Great corresponding article on this written by Mr. Matt Miller. And make sure you go on and read the information, see the charts on here. You won't be disappointed, I promise, at Kennedy-financial.com. And while you're on your little device, tweet us at KFS Life Planning. And we want to know, what percentage of Trump's proposals do you think will be pushed through? 0%, 50%, or 100%? You feeling optimistic? So, on which end? So, depending on our listener.
No excuses. You have the House and the Senate.
That's right.
Absolutely
So tweet us. Let us know what your thoughts are. And we do have our special guest on the show today, Aaron Kennedy, our very own chartered financial analyst here at Kennedy Financial Services. And we have one big topic to get through. And also we're going to miss trade. We don't have time to cover trade in here, but it is in the article. It's worth reading. But healthcare, let's get to this because there's a lot of stuff around healthcare. And we're just looking at this chart during the break on annual increase in consumer spending on health insurance. Get this. In 2013, we were spending somewhere around $25 billion, according to this chart done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2015. And in 2014, it jumped to over $80 billion.
Wow.
That's a rather large increase.
That is a massive increase. And then, of course, it dropped back off in 15. And the only thing we can guess is because it just got so, exorbitant in price that people were dropping
Affordable Care Act is not very affordable.
Yeah. And we know this, right? I mean, it's all over the news. This is not a debatable topic. So this is what Trump said. I'm going to repeal it. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to, work on drug prices and negotiate with pharmaceutical firms. I'm going to expand HSAs, that's health savings accounts, for people to put more money back in. We're going to block grant all Medicaid back to the states, let them deal with the corruption and everything else. And if they do, they get more money because they're doing it the right way. We're going to create interstate sales of health insurance. We're going to let everybody see what they're paying for health before they actually go in and get the services done. We're going to eliminate requirements for health insurance. In other words, you have to buy it or you pay a penalty, right? And then he's got the Republican Party saying that they want to help support long-term care needs to stay in homes, subsidized risk pools for those people with health problems. How do you do all this? Isn't even possible. And what's that do to the markets? Or do we even know?
We don't know. That's the biggest thing. There's so many questions out there. Number one, how do we deal with people with pre-existing conditions? You talked about the pool. There has to be a way for healthy people to get insurance and
not pay for unhealthy people. That's the way the system's supposed to work. But then, how do other people take care of it, get taken care of? And that needs to come from the states. That's where it's always been, but it needs to be more practical from a price standpoint. So I think, if we can start from the bottom, find out where these excess costs are, whether it's the FDA, whether it's over-regulation. Who else here's talked to a doctor and heard them complain about all they do now is chart. Yeah.
All they do now is paperwork.
Yep.
I don't want my doctor doing that.
That's right.
I want them taking care of me.
That's right. In fact, we had some of our very own clients tell us, I'll be retiring depending on the election or not. Yeah, just because they're so sick and tired of all the regulations.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on in the economy. And Aaron, we want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I know you're on here every month. You don't want to miss Mr. Aaron Kennedy giving us our market updates and things that are going on. Things are looking very positive within the market today. And we have a lot to be positive about from a capitalist point of view. So, and that's not being political. That's being market political, right? So,
Economics, it's just numbers.
Economics, it's just numbers. So, we appreciate everyone listening to the show today, and we wish everyone the very best week. And don't miss next week. You don't want to risk what could be the one thing that changes your life. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services here in Eastland, Texas. Thanks again, Aaron Kennedy, and God bless.
And catch a rebroadcast on Saturday, 9 a.m. on KATX and KWBY.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.